One thing I absolutely love about Silksong is the inclusion of Crests, a mechanic that wasn't in the first Hollow Knight that brings so much freedom, player choice, experimentation, and fun to Team Cherry's latest freaking masterpiece over here. There are 7 Crests in the game, each of which changes up Hornet's entire attack moveset: her Needle Strike, her Dash Attack, her Downwards Aerial Pogo. Each one has a specialized arrangement of equipable tool slots, and some even provide unique buffs and capabilities. They all have their own optimal use cases and playstyles, but today I'm here to ask one simple question. Which crest is best, sweet viewer? Which crest is best? I don't know what that was. So today we're going to go through each crest in the order in which I found them and rank each one on this ever-shifting list, which may at some point split into multiple lists, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And in case it wasn't as obvious as a bald chimpanzee's nutsack when you clicked on this video, I'll be spoiling every crest in the game, which will include most of Act 3. Finally, a quick disclaimer here. This is my opinion, okay? My opinion! If you disagree with my take, that's awesome. Everyone has their own opinions about these crests. That's part of the fun. But if you write one of those sweaty, hostile gamer comments telling me I suck and my video is shit and I have some sort of skill issue for having a different opinion from yours, thank you for the comment, but I will ignore your ass. And just for the record, dickface, 1v1 me, bro. This game wasn't hard for me and I would fuck your shit up with any crest. Alright, let's kick things off here, starting with the first crest in the game and Hornet's OG loadout, the Hunter Crest. Oh, mama. This is the crest that introduces us to Silksong and immediately makes it feel so distinct from its predecessor. It's agile, it's fast, it really shows us what this game is all about, and this game just gets me raw, dude. While it is the first crest in the game, the Hunter Crest is always a trusty choice and remains a viable option right up until the end of Act 3. It has a standard tool loadout of 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues, and a silk skill, allowing you to customize it to suit your needs. In terms of combat, it has a steady attack rate at medium range that allows you to keep the pressure on enemies and move quickly. Its downwards aerial is this diagonal dash that I personally see as Hornet's quintessential sort of signature move. It's a fast directional strike which is perfect for popping enemies on the dome and bounding over them, and it's made better by the fact that after dash attacking into an enemy, Hornet vaults up into the air, leading to a crispy follow-up. This pogo can also be used for platforming, although as we'll see later, there are better options for this, but it's still sick as fuck. This crest is also unique in that it gets upgraded twice throughout the base game, giving it a perk called Focus. After unlocking this ability, this focus meter will build up as you attack enemies, and the higher the focus meter is, the more damage you deal per hit, to a maximum of 40%. And what I really love here is that your focus doesn't decay over time, it only breaks if you rest at a bench or take a hit. Assuming you don't, this rad damage buff will stay capped off. This encourages you to play nice and clean without taking hits, and means that, assuming you do what Hornet begs of you and get good such that you can avoid hits and keep attacking, the crest can pump out a filthy dose of damage at speed. All told, I love the Hunter Crest, and I personally continue to use this puppy all the way through the game. It's fun as heck to use too. So where do we rank it? Well, we currently have nothing to rank it against. I do really like it, but that means it's time to answer our first question of the day, my sweet friends. If we had to pick which crest is better, this bad boy or the next crest we find in the game, the Reaper Crest. The Reaper can be found in Greymoor, and I believe for most players it's the first crest you find outside of the Hunter. I remember finding this thing and thinking it was so cool how your entire moveset changes. I found myself bouncing back and forth between the two for most of the early game, trying to decide which one I preferred, and I would say it's still pretty close, to be honest. Reaper has a slower attack rate than Hunter, but compensates with longer range, a wide area of effect, and a pretty nasty knockback when you hit enemies. Hornet basically swings her needle in these big, heavy swoops, which, as somebody who likes slow and heavy attacks in general, I find super satisfying. The Reaper also has a special ability. You can reap! After binding for a heal, Hornet will start glowing white for about 10 seconds. In this time, every enemy you attack drops additional bundles of silk, allowing you to recoup more silk than is normally possible. All of this means that while the Hunter is faster and can probably dish out more DPS if you can keep that focus meter maxed out, the Reaper has more utility. It can really space enemies out, and that extra silk can come in handy for a variety of situations. This difference is evidenced most clearly by the downwards aerial pogo, where the quick diagonal slash is replaced by this downwards heavy swipe, which can be a game changer. Look at Hunter's March. This is an early difficulty spike and one of the first major skill checks in the game. Part of what makes it hard is obviously the tough and nimble enemies and a particularly nasty boss fight, but another big part of the challenge for new players here is lining up these pogo jumps without hitting the spikes. With the Hunter's Crest, if you push the control stick straight down, Hornet might dash in the wrong direction, so you have to always be mindful of which direction you want to dash and angle it properly, or line it up just right. But if you had the Reaper Crest here, it would be a complete joke. You can just push the control stick down and attack and you can't miss. It's super forgiving. Look at the spiral windmill thing in Greymoor. Climbing it with the Hunter Crest is a pain in the ass. Come on! Come on! Ah! But with the Reaper, it's a cakewalk. You can't mess it up. Because of this, I've seen some people chirp the Reaper Crest for being too easy to use. And to that I would say, well, yeah, the Reaper Crest is really fucking good. Like, I don't know if I'd say it's broken or anything, but it's a jack of all trades that's incredibly effective in almost any scenario in the game. For platforming and overall exploration, I would say it might be the most reliable crest in the game. It's easiest to avoid hits with, arguably the easiest to platform with, and you get lots of extra silk. Combat is its weak link. It's not really designed for intense combat, and in terms of damage output, I think many other crests have the edge, including the Hunter Crest if you're good enough not to get hit. It's a pretty narrow edge though, as for certain fights the Reaper is still the choice pick. For example, the Coral Tower is a fairly tricky fight in Act 3 involving a quadruple enemy gauntlet followed by a boss. After trying a few crests here, I was surprised to find that Reaper was easily the way to go, because you can just mollywop the enemies down into the spike traps, push them away, stay airborne with ease when the floor disappears, and smack everybody around. So yeah, between these two, it's super close for me, but if I could only choose one, I think the Reaper Crest is just slightly more effective than the Hunter Crest all around. I love its big swooping attacks, and I think it's just a jack of all trades, so it's gonna have to take my cake here, but only just. And again, this list will morph a bit as we go on, but this is the call I'm gonna make for now. Anyways, next up is a crest I absolutely love, the Beast Crest. I made a YouTube short recently where I was fighting Sister Splinter with the Beast Crest, and I got a couple questions. Some were asking how I got the Beast Crest before fighting Splinter, and others were asking why I was even using it. To answer the first, as soon as I got the Drifter's Cloak, I guess I just went back to Hunter's March to check out this updraft, and that's where I found the crest, I don't know. And as for the second, why would I use it? Are you fucking insane? This thing is my jam! In fact, when I was first getting used to this thing, I thought it was straight up broken. I was expecting Team Cherry to nerf it. It's fucking glorious! Like, why do people hate on this crest? I'll never understand. The idea behind the Beast Crest is that it's a combat crest. It's a fighting crest, a boss killer. It has a weak tool loadout, only allowing for 1 silk skill, 2 reds, 2 yellows, and no blues. Crazy, I know. But it makes up for this with its combat capabilities. Its basic attacks are these claw swipes, which are fast, hit hard with some knockback, and have close to mid-range. It has big slashing charge and dash attacks, and its pogo jump is this lateral somersault. But its true defining feature is that when you bind your silk with this thing, you don't heal right away. Instead, you go into a beast mode called Fury, dealing 25% more damage, attacking faster, and having longer range for 5 seconds. While in this mode, you can heal up to 3 masks, or 4 with the multi-binder, by attacking enemies, and also continue to recoup your silk. This creates a bit of a risk-reward where you have to get aggressive to heal, which isn't for everyone. I think some people don't like how you can't heal whenever you want. You have this limited time period where you sort of have to ravenously attack enemies to get your health back. But to that I would say, I've beaten Bloodborne numerous times. Getting aggressive to recoup my HP is basically baked into my bloodstream at this point. In fact, that's the only way I like to heal, baby. If I'm not mucking somebody's barn at the same time as I'm healing, am I truly healing? I don't think so. I don't think so. So this crest clicked with me right away. Once you get used to it, the ability to dish out this much damage while healing is incredibly powerful in combat. The obvious trade-off here is that it's not great for exploration or platforming. This somersault pogo is harder to line up than the others, and if you take damage, you have to go find enemies just to heal. It's a really cool crest, but one I only switch to for big arena fights and bosses, but in that category, it might be second to none for me. So how do we rank it? Well, we're sort of at an obvious impasse here. I would never take it out to explore a new area over the Hunter or the Reaper, but I've killed more bosses with this thing than either of those two crests. What to do about this? Well, it's simple. It's time to split the list! The game can be broadly divided into exploration or platforming sections and boss fights, or combat in general. And since different crests specialize in different categories, we're gonna need 2 lists. When we're talking exploration, I wouldn't really recommend the Beast Crest and would put it below the other 2. But for fighting, it's taking the top spot for now. If you know how to use this thing, you can fuck shit up with the Beast Crest. The next crest I found is the Wanderer Crest. I see this crest gets glazed online perhaps more than any other. I've seen it said many times how glorious the DPS is on this thing, or how fast its attack rate is, how easy it is to platform with. It's just an all-around powerhouse. So this might come as a surprise, but I'm just gonna say it and rip the band-aid off right now. The Wanderer Crest can suck my groin! Okay, not actually, but I didn't use it too much in my playthrough and was never a big fan of it personally. It's by far my least used crest. And I know I may have just triggered half the people who clicked on this video, but let me explain, okay? Let me explain myself here. When I first got this crest, I was excited. I dabbled with it, experimented with the controls, and right away I came to the conclusion that this is basically just Hollow Knight. The Wanderer's Crest more or less gives you the same controls as the Knight in the first game. It's these quick, sort of swift, short-range swipes with a basic downwards pogo and no obvious cool abilities. So after using it for about 5 minutes, I was just like, if I wanted controls like this, I'd just go back and play Hollow Knight, which I had literally just finished replaying. So I headed to a bench, and that's where I saw that it sacrifices a red tool slot for another borderline useless yellow tool slot, and that sealed the deal. I switched back to Hunter right there. To be honest, I just found this one kind of boring when I found it, so I never wanted to use it. I neglected it the entire game, didn't waste a single memory locket on it, and actually when I was first planning on making this video, I was gonna simply omit it. I was gonna make some troll joke about how I didn't use it and I'm not qualified to talk about it, and that if you use it, you might not be fun at parties or something, and I was just gonna leave it there. But then I had a change of heart. I sort of had like a character redemption arc of sorts, where I decided for once in my life not to be an asshole and to give it a fair chance. So midway through Act 3, I decided to give this thing a whack. I had never expanded it, I had no memory lockets, but I figured, what the hell, Hakuna Matata. Started clearing the late game with this thing, and after finally giving it a chance, I can now say, this thing is really fucking good. It's not to my taste, personally, but it's good. In fact, it might be the best all-around weapon in the game. Ugh, hurts to say that. What I didn't know about this thing is that it does actually have a few creative design choices. First of all, if you have a lot of silk and don't spend it, you have a chance to land a critical hit that can one-shot enemies. If you get aggressive with this thing, it can whack enemies lightning fast for such a juicy, reliable stream of damage. It's just a trusty little sack of shit, this thing, I have to say. Especially when that crit pops off. Oh, woo! Its charge attack sucks, but its dash attack compensates. It sends Hornet leaping into the sky for a perfect follow-up. It's not ideal for every situation in boss, though. Its incredibly short range means that even though it can dish out fast damage, you have to get in close and can easily get hit back, or just bump into an enemy by accident and take a hit. Then again, you can get used to that short range super quick, and it's not really a big deal. It can be annoying to use against flying enemies or certain fast-moving bosses. If you pair it with Longclaw, you can benefit from its fast attack rate while eliminating some of that risk, but for some enemies, there are better options. As an exploration tool, though, it might be the best in the game. I guess it's in the name, Wanderer. It's great for romping around, slapping through enemies, and bouncing quickly and merrily along. I would almost put it in first, but then after thinking about it, I'd still put the Reaper in first place for exploration, with Wanderer in a close second. Wanderer is faster and deals more damage, but Reaper just has so much utility and is so forgiving that I still think it's the king. But this is just my personal preference. Well, actually, my personal preference is not to use Wanderer at all, but I'm trying to be graceful here, okay? I'm trying. In terms of boss fights, I'm gonna rank it a bit lower. I know a lot of people would put it right at the top because of that crazy DPS and how you can just endlessly pogo bosses to death, so once again, let me explain. First of all, Wanderer is pretty easy to pick up and use. I've seen some people talk about it like it's this hardcore crest for the skilled players. It's tough to master, but super rewarding when you get good, but that's a stretch, man. That's kinda some bullshit. It takes some practice to get used to the short range without taking hits, but that crit just melts enemies. So just going in and whacking things with the Wanderer Crest is one of the easiest ways to approach the game after the Reaper and Shaman. So while I understand the hype around that DPS, I think players who call it the best boss killer adjusted to this thing early and never really took the time to see what some of those other crests could do because they were already getting good results with the Wanderer. But I'd argue that while the Wanderer's basic needle attacks definitely do have the highest DPS in the game, with some of the other crests you might be able to dish out more damage overall. For example, if you're able to play hitless with the Hunter Crest, wouldn't that focus buff outscale Wanderer's DPS? What about chaining Fury Rushes with the Beast Crest? Have you ever seen a good Beast player in action? Those guys are elite, they're top-notch Gs. You can spam triple tools with the Architect Crest to demolish bosses, and don't even get me started on the boss-killing potential of the Shaman Crest if you can manage your silk. So while I think it's a tried-and-true fighting weapon and a great all-arounder, I have a hunch that there will be faster ways to beat bosses with other crests that the speedrunning community will no doubt uncover. I also think the range of other crests can be useful for a lot of fights, so personally, I don't see this as a boss fighting crest. But if I'm wrong, again, feel free to disagree. I'm not trying to be, I'm not saying I'm right. Just my opinion, I wouldn't bring this thing into most boss fights. Great crest, but it's just not really to my taste. But you know what is to my taste? Tools. I love tools. Enter our next crest, the Architect. This is an interesting one. The Architect Crest's claim to fame is that you lose your Silk skill, but instead get a third red tool slot, allowing you to equip 3 active tools at a time. You can also repair your tools anywhere you want by binding tools instead of HP at the cost of shell shards. This makes it the Tool Man's Crest, and since I personally prefer using red tools over Silk skills, I thought this was sick. It also allows for some pretty tight loadouts. You can equip your 2 favorite offensive tools, say, I don't know, the Conch Cutter and the Delver's Drill or something, but then still have a third spot for buffs or heals, like the Flint Slate, Flea Brew, Shrew or Plasmium. Very nice. In terms of moveset, Hornet thrusts her needle out in these stabbing drill lunges that are fast and deal a good deal of damage at medium range, but are somewhat hard to line up as they have very limited area of effect. There's no cone to it, it's just a straight lunge. Its downwards aerial pogo is definitely the worst in the game. It's a diagonal stab that's basically a terrible version of the Hunter's Crest pogo that it can't hit anything, so for platforming, this thing is basically useless. But as a trade-off, its Needle Strike charge attack is by far the best in the game. This spiraling drill blast hits at triple damage. Wait, they nerfed it, sorry. It hits at less than that now. But it still hits at a lot of damage at long range and is absolutely disgusting. If you pair this thing with a pin badge to decrease the charge time, things can get nasty. I made a short about this, but I farm rosaries with this thing. I just crank guys with this thing, and that's how I get rich, baby. With that said, how would I rank it? Well, for exploration and platforming, as mentioned, it fucking sucks. That pogo jump is pathetic. It literally sucks you away from what you're trying to hit. It sucks you backwards. I will put it right above the Beast Crest because at least it has a reliable heal, but it's really not ideal for exploration. This thing's true strength is in combat. It's a fighting crest. I would say wherever there was a boss that I struggled to kill with the Beast Crest, often it was the Architect Crest that was the remedy. Being able to spam 3 tools and repair them on the go so that you can't run out means you can absolutely devastate certain bosses. Also, any boss where the attack windows are wide and leave you time to charge up that Needle Strike is vulnerable to this crest. It's also good against bosses that send summons at you, as you can often take them out by trapping them with tools and stuff, or whop the summons with a Needle Strike. I would rank it just below the Beast Crest as a boss killer, but it's tight. Because the bosses in this game are so dynamic and well designed, it really depends on the fight. Like I said, for some fights I even think the Reaper is the best, but Architect is a delicious choice for a lot of boss fights in this game. Delicious crest. What was that? Could it be, dear viewer, that I'm about to get kissed by a witch? The Witch Crest is up next, and this is a weird one not just to use, but also to get. When I first found this screaming twisted bud in Vile Water, I had no idea what it did. I spent a while trying to figure it out, then just gave up. Then like 6 hours later, I was back in Shellwood, and this sick fuck took the twisted bud, cursed my ass, and this led to a series of events that eventually led to me getting this horrific surgery. I was like, what the hell is going on here? That whole sequence is a fever dream, man. Also, Hornet's line after, "Madame, I shan't lie, that was an ordeal such as I have rarely suffered." That shit had me crying in laughter, dude. That's one of Hornet's best lines in the game, hands down. That shit got to her, man. But at least she came out of it with a new crest. The Witch Crest. Now, you want to talk about skill? You want to talk about get good? This crest, in my opinion, has the highest skill ceiling in the game. It's the hardest crest to use by far without a shadow of a doubt, and unless you get really specialized at using it, it might not be worth the effort. Like the Beast Crest, it's definitely a love it or hate it type of thing. It's pretty weird, to be honest, but when it shines, it's a lot of fun to use, and it has some unique perks. Its first big advantage is that it's the only crest in the game that has 3 slots for blue tools. Since blue tools are, I would say, probably the most useful tools in the game, having a total of 4 of those equipped at once is a truly beautiful thing. This pairs nicely with its moveset. The idea here is for the needle to kind of represent one of those BDSM whips. Hornet swishes the needle out in these nice long-range whipping attacks at medium speed. Very sexy. Save a lash for me, mommy. The best part, in my opinion, is the dash attack, which slaps the enemy twice before vaulting Hornet to safety. Its pogo also gives a double hit on impact and is really easy to use. It almost hones in a bit on enemies and platforms. I also recently learned that its Hurricane Needle Strike can be extended by button mashing, elevating it for me from one of the worst to one of the best needle strikes in the game. And all around, this crest just has a really solid moveset. But the true quibbler about this thing is the way healing works. Like the Beast Crest, you can't just heal whenever you want. Instead, Binding sends out a lashing frenzy of tentacles in every direction, and you only get the heal if this thing connects with an enemy. It's surprisingly tricky to get a hang of, and the risk reward here is insane. If you land it, you get a burst of satisfaction as you fully heal and most likely slaughter your prey with the insane damage that the tentacles deal. But if you fuck it up and miss in the heat of the moment, you lose everything. You've burnt your silk, you've missed your heal, you've wasted your time leaving yourself vulnerable, and you might just throw your controller through the wall. For every boss you fight with this thing, there's an added layer of analysis, as you always have to be thinking in terms of which of its attacks and tells you can reliably punish with the tentacles to make sure that you lock in that heal. There's always going to be that one attack where you know, okay, now I have you, you son of a bitch! You definitely want to pair this baby with the injector band and the claw mirror to maximize the speed and damage of this thing, and from there you still have 2 blue slots to spare for experimentation. I was enamored with the Witch Crest and used it quite a bit. It served me well against certain bosses such as Lace, but I can't rank it as high as I'd like because I have a couple issues with it that, in my opinion, unless you're obsessed and master this thing, unless you become a true Witcher, make it less viable than most other crests. For one, that heal. I love the premise of having to hit enemies with the tentacles to heal, but it works in an annoying way here. In my opinion, it should be instantaneous. If you hit an enemy with those tentacles, regardless of the circumstances, you should get the full heal. 3 masks instantly or 4 with the multi-binder. But it doesn't work that way. Instead, the tentacles sort of deal multiple hits in a row, and each hit recovers 1 mask of health. This started to piss me off, because I'd use it on an enemy to heal, but since that enemy was weak, I'd only get 1 mask back before it died. It also means that sometimes it just works weird or off. I'll line it up and connect, but only get 2 masks back and not understand why I didn't get all 3. It's like the enemy somehow slipped away from that 3rd hit, and I just personally find that super frustrating. It already has a pretty low range and takes some skill and maneuvering to line up the hit, so if I get that fucking hit, give me my guaranteed heal. I can't afford to have this thing being unreliable on me in the heat of a fight, and if it is going to be finicky like this, I think to compensate it needs a slightly faster attack rate. Going from the Wanderer Crest to this, it's surprising how much slower the Witch's attack rate is, given the fact that it's supposed to be this nimble little whip. If I'm taking on this much risk on that heal, I'd need to get a bit more speed out of that needle to make it worth it. Again, this is my opinion. In terms of ranking, I see it as sort of a mid-tier niche option. For exploration, it's lower half. Still better than Architect and Beast because of its fantastic pogo jump, but if you take damage, you better pray you can find a big, juicy slab of meat enemy to leech off of for the heal. In terms of boss fights, it's very good, but only on the condition that you actually spend the time to get good with it. If you master it, it's up there with the Beast and Architect since you can slaughter bosses with that heal, and the total 4 blue tools can allow for some beautiful loadouts. I also found it pairs very well with the Parry Silk skill, so I'm going to put it slightly above the Hunter, assuming you know what you're doing with this thing. But these two are almost interchangeable for me, and I would say that for anyone who doesn't want to spend the time and frustration learning the ways of the Witcher, Wanderer or even Hunter would be a more reliable choice. And with that, we come to our last crest, the Shaman Crest. You find this in the back of the Shaman Trio's house in Act 3, and I love the way Team Cherry set the player up to find this. I could see there was this little gap in the roof and I couldn't quite reach it. Then as soon as you get the Silksong ability, you're like, ah! Give me that crest! The basic Shaman moveset is pretty generic, just your typical sword swipes, but it shoots a little beam out of the needle, which I like to imagine as an homage to the Master Sword from Zelda. It's just classic. Now, this one is a tricky one for me to rank because of my own bias. I prefer using red tools over silk skills. For most of the game, I'd rather use like the conch cutter than sharp dart, for example. So on the surface, this is a crest I shouldn't like. It has no red tool slots, but to compensate, it allows you to equip 3 silk skills at once rather than just 1, making it basically the polar opposite of the Architect crest. All silk, no tools. It also has a special ability that increases the damage of these silk skills by 50%, and since they already deal a lot of damage as it is, that's disgusting to be honest. That's like, I don't know, wait a second. Is this thing fucking broken? I think it might be. If you pair this crest with the Volt Filament, you get another 25% damage on those silk skills. That is insane. That's 75% on the most high damage attacks in your arsenal. Throw in the Egg of Flelia, which reduces the cost of silk skills when you're at full HP, and you can almost spam some of the most powerful, heavy-hitting attacks in the game at almost double damage. This thing reaches the very cusps, the very borders of being absolutely busted. And I've gotta say, even as a tool user who prefers to save my silk for heals, as an all-arounder, I think this might have to be possibly the best crest in the game, at least for combat. Those silk skills deal insane damage and have ridiculous AoE to boot. Of course, there are 3 trade-offs to this overwhelming power. The first is that you can't bind in midair. With this crest, binding sends Hornet plummeting down to the ground, which makes it inviable in many fights where midair heals are clutch. The second is that it can't equip many tools in general. You're wholly dependent on those silk skills. And the third is that its basic attacks are a bit lackluster. Its dash attack is by far the worst in the game. This attack sucks. The beam it shoots out has higher range than even the Reaper crest, and the damage is fine, but it has no AoE, it's single hit, and it doesn't have much knockback either. It's good, but not great. It almost strikes me that this is the kind of crest where you want to play hit and run with enemies to not take hits while recouping your silk for that next world-eating silk attack. In terms of exploration, fighting enemies with the needle feels a little clumsy and slower than other crests, but I will say that downwards pogo is nuts. You still get the pogo bounce even if just the beam touches the surface. It's crazy. Look at this, you can climb climb up and up from such range. This definitely would have come in handy if you had this crest in Bile Water, but it is a bit directional and still not as easy to use as the Reaper, Wanderer, or Witch for pogoing. You also have no red tools, meaning you can't bring Plasmium, which is a hit against it for exploration. I didn't use Plasmium too often, but I found it extremely useful in the Sands of Carek and Mount Fae, where rather than dying and going back to the bench, I could just inject myself with just enough HP to figure out that next section and move forward. Not being able to do that is kind of a point against Shaman, but it's still a solid exploration tool. I'd put it somewhere in the middle. In combat, it's utterly disgusting, and an argument can be made that it belongs in first place. I'm gonna put it in third, simply because it's not to my style and I took down most of the bosses in the game with Beast and Architect. But on paper, I can see it being the best boss killer in the game. This crest gives you an edge against a lot of boss battles, and also for multiple enemies, you can clobber them with Silk skills. Especially if you took care of the first Sinner and got Rune Rage, you becometh Death, Destroyer of Worlds. So, going back to the age-old question, which crest is best? Well, obviously that's a very subjective matter, but here's my 2 cents. In my opinion, Reaper is the best crest for all-around exploration, and since you get it so early, it's probably the most reliable crest in the game. You take this thing with you, you cannot go wrong. But Wanderer, Hunter, and Shaman are all also great exploration tools as well. For bosses, it very much depends on the boss and their moveset which crest is best, but for me, Beast Crest was always my go-to boss killer with Architect in close second. I put Wanderer sort of low down here, but I know as a fact many people would say it should be near the top because of its critical hit, insane DPS, and pogo jump. It's just not really to my taste, but if that's you, I want to see a detailed argument of why I'm wrong and Wanderer Crest is the best boss fighting crest in the game down in the comments below. Same goes for Witch Crest. I'd be very curious about what the Witchers have to say here. I don't see that crest as the best at anything, but I also never mastered it, so I could be wrong. With that all said, if we had to pick just one crest that's best for everything, just like if you could only have one crest all game, what would you use? The best crest in the game all around has gotta be the Shaman Crest. I know many players would say Wanderer or Architect is the best, but nah man, there's a reason why you only get Shaman in Act 3. You can take it anywhere you go for easy platforming and navigation, and the devastation you can cause with those Silk skills makes it filthy in combat as well. For my money, Shaman is the best crest in the game. And last but not least, the question I'm sure you've all been waiting for, what's my favorite crest? Well, for me personally, after giving it some thought, I gotta say my favorite crest in the game is the Reaper Crest. I know, kind of boring answer, but throughout the game I always found myself coming back to the Reaper, not just because it's good, but because I find it so much fun to use. Those big heavy swoops, the knockback, the giant pogo hit that knocks enemies down. I just love this thing, but with that said, I use the Beast Crest a lot. So if you could describe my playstyle, I guess you would call me a Reaper Beast. Reaper Beast Snulch, baby, that's my name, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!